My name is Chauhan. I am a lawyer in Richmond Hill, Ontario, and today's topic for this video is on the question of franchise and how does it work. And this particular one is on a legal topic that will be more of interest to those in Ontario. But the general principles that we'll talk about today apply to other provinces and other countries as well. So to discuss this topic today, we have Mandy Jazzy, who is an articling student today in the year 2014. Next year, Mandy will be a lawyer. And so I would have Mandy will be asking questions that are typically those questions that arise in the mind of a person who is going to start a franchise, or in the mind of a young lawyer who says that here's the advice that he's going to give or she's going to give to the client. So based on those issues, we'll have some basic questions answered in this short video. But there are other videos that you might like to watch under my name, jchauhan.com, which you can see on the YouTube. But here's Mandy.
Thank you for the introduction. So in terms of a franchise, how does a franchise work?
The basic concept of the franchise, Mandy, is where an organization has standardized goods or service they want to present to the consumers in the marketplace and say that here is, for example, a coffee, here is, for example, a hamburger, or a service such as health, a gym, that we want to provide a service or goods which are standardized in nature, of a certain quality, with a certain image that the franchise wants to present to the public through a franchisee with an independent contract arrangement, and that is the basis of a franchise arrangement.
Okay, and then what are the legal issues on franchising?
So as you can imagine that when the two independent parties who want to enter into agreement want to set out the relationship with respect to what the franchisor wants the franchisee to do and market the service or goods, then there are a number of legal issues that would arise. So number one, there has to be a properly drafted leasing arrangement as to where the franchisee should be located. And in many well-established franchise arrangements, this is done by the franchisor company. So they would lease the property and sublease it to the franchisee. That's the first arrangement legally that would have to be arranged. The second one is the franchise agreement, which basically sets out the relationship between the franchisor, who is providing the know-how to the franchisee, and then the franchisee saying, yes, I would like your support and arrangement, and that agreement itself is the basis of the relationship legally between the two parties. Then in some cases, but not all, there might be an existing franchise to be sold to a new person, in which event there is a sale of assets agreement, so that the new person takes over an existing arrangement subject to the agreement of the franchisor and the lessor to start a new franchise in an existing location or a place where the person was ready to sell his franchise. And another concept legally that would have to be addressed is the incorporation. Most franchises, in terms of the franchisee, want the franchisee to be incorporated legally, which means that they're a corporation without share capital, and they would be incorporating it so that they assume the responsibility to the public at large. But in terms of the training, they would want the person who is the primary person as a franchisee properly trained to carry out the work, the service, up to the standard that the franchisor wants of the franchisee. These are the basic concepts that you would deal with in a franchise arrangement.
So you mentioned the lease agreements. Is it the franchisor who normally holds the lease?
Not always, but very often. And the reason for that is that the franchisor wants to be able to control the decor, for example, in a restaurant, the appearance of the location and the facilities, because he has the know-how and the suppliers who are able to arrange the franchise premises with the proper decor and facilities so that if there's a need, they control the arrangement. They're also in a better position financially to negotiate the terms of the lease with the landlord in a building, and then they take the lease, they sublease the premises to the franchisee. But in some cases, what would happen is that the franchisor would say, you go to a landlord and we will then work out an agreement between the franchisor and the franchisee as to how you will renovate the premises. So you might have, for some situations, an arrangement where the franchisee is directly dealing with the landlord. But these are two possibilities where the sublease arrangement of the franchisor is more common.
Oh, okay. What are the issues addressed in a franchise agreement?
Well, as I said earlier, the franchisor is trying to market his goods and service by certain standards and provide the supplies or know-how or training. And therefore, one ingredient of that agreement is what is it that the franchisor is going to provide. If you have a restaurant situation, then the person providing as a franchisor would be that I want this hamburger, for example, of a certain standard quality, and therefore I will provide you with the supplies. Or you may buy the supplies from somebody else as long as you comply with my standards. So supplies is one arrangement. Support of the franchisor in terms of saying that as and when you need the support, apart from the initial training where there is usually a provision for providing the training, there's an ongoing support which the franchisor would provide, and tell the franchisee that if you have any problem, management, accounting, the goods and services, the change of menu, or some other arrangement, that ongoing support is given by the franchisor on a regular basis, and that's the other item that would normally be discussed in the agreement. One important item that is addressed in the agreement is the accounting, because in most agreements there will be an arrangement for the royalty to be paid on a monthly basis, which is something usually anything from 3, 4, 5, 6, 7% arrangement. That amount, as agreed, has to be paid on the sales made by the franchisee, and therefore on an ongoing basis the franchisor is making money from the accounting arrangement. In more modern times, very often your till is directly linked to the head office where they record the sales that you're making. Then there is of course the percentage arrangement for the royalty, which is an ongoing royalty, but there will also be for the initial investment of the franchisee to get the training and to buy the franchise itself, and a lump sum amount, which is the amount that the franchisee will pay to the franchisor to say that I want to buy your, so to speak, goodwill, get your training. And those two amounts of the initial investment, if you like, and the royalty amounts are another part of the agreement, and that is the franchise fee and the royalty arrangement. And those are some of the issues, but usually there are quite a few issues that would be addressed in the franchise agreement, including, for example, what would you do if you were to sell the franchise and realize your goodwill because you are now wanting to move on to some other business. So that assignment arrangement is very often a part of how you would deal with the franchisor to sell your business to another party.
And I guess trademark would also fall under that as well.
Yes, because I think when you're trying to standardize your goods or services under the brand name, so to speak, you need a trademark. So many agreements will in fact talk about the trademark. Say, for example, McDonald's with a big yellow sign with an M is an arrangement by which you're marketing the goods, if you like, to the public with an image, logo, presentation, and all those items would normally be trademarked with a name as well as the appearance of the image that you want the franchisee to deal with, and then the franchisee is selling his goods based on that logo. So the arrangement in the agreement normally talks about the ownership of the franchise of the trademark by the franchisor, and requires the franchisee to use that logo to create that image to the public.
Right, okay. And then what is a disclosure?
I think in Alberta had in Canada the first arrangement where the experience was that when the franchisor goes to the franchisee and says, do you want my franchise? Then it is very important that the franchisor makes a disclosure to tell the franchisee what is the management experience, what is the investment they carry, how many franchises do they have. So those issues have been addressed in Ontario in a statute now called Arthur Wishart Franchise Act. And that standardizes the arrangement, and the arrangement includes the document called disclosure, which requires on the part of the franchisor to provide a history of the organization, the basic management ability, the product, the number of franchises, the management experience, and that document is a disclosure which has to be given now to the franchisee, and the franchisee would have to acknowledge he got it to ensure that the public is protected from the, so to speak, representations of the franchisor when they are dealing with the public who are there investing their hard-earned money to obtain the franchise. So that's the disclosure in the statute.
Okay. And how would you go about selecting a franchise?
That's more a business question, I think, but from my experience, the best franchise to go into is the one where your inclinations are. If you're into health, you go into health franchise. You are into food, then you go into food franchise. But it's very, very important that your inclinations and what you like is dealt with in the choice of the franchise. And then, of course, you select a franchisor in his organization that has the name, the reputation, the research done properly, and have demonstrated with many other franchises that they have the right, so to speak, formula for success if you follow that arrangement as a franchisee. So those issues and experience is what you should look for within the framework of your particular inclinations and likings to try to obtain a franchise.
Okay, so among those inclinations, how would you select a location then?
These companies very often have figured out from their experience as well as the research is the kind of market that you would need for a franchise. So let's take, for example, a particular kind of a restaurant, a Middle Eastern restaurant, or a McDonald's type, coffee range type, Starbucks. These are examples of the franchises where the franchisor has researched and figured out that if you're in a city and you are near a university, you are more likely to be able to find the audience that will be looking for coffee. If you are in a situation where you are dealing with an audience that would enjoy Middle Eastern food, then you have to look for a research that confirms that that audience with the income level will be able to use and be the customers of your franchise. So these are the issues that you have to take into account and look for before you find a location.
Okay, great. That was very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Mandy. So I hope that was of interest to the audience, and you can watch more videos as they come. My name is Jay Chauhan. You can see my website, www.jchauhan.com, or you go to YouTube and look for my name, and we will have more videos for people looking for this kind of legal information. Thank you.